Tuesday, my favorite day of the week, and that means it is time for Tuesdays with Ted. Hello, my name is Floyd Pönitz. I am the president of Seventh-day Adventist Kinship International, the only LGBTQIA plus affirming Adventist organization for current and former Adventists. And Tuesdays is the time where we set aside time to talk with Ted Wilson, president of the administrative body of the Adventist Church. And so, as usual, I invite you to grab your favorite beverage. Mine is in my Kinship mug. As you can see, Seventh-day Adventist Kinship International. So put me on pause, grab yourself a drink, because it's going to be some hot topics. So, first of all, I hope everyone's had a great week, a great weekend, and now it's Tuesday, so our week is well underway, and hopefully it's a good week for you. Last week was the eclipse, and hopefully some of you got to see the eclipse in the North American, especially those of you who were in that total visibility band. I was very lucky. I'm in Dallas, Texas, and we had clear skies and the most magnificent eclipse I could have ever wished for. I had the glasses. They're in the other room. I should have had them with me here. But we had the glasses so I could look at the sun directly and see the little Pac-Man sun getting smaller and smaller. And then all of a sudden, voila, total eclipse. And it got really dark here for about 4 minutes. Everything got really quiet. We had some coyotes in the area that were howling, not knowing exactly what was going on. And yeah, it was just pretty magnificent. I remember as a kid growing up, that was one of the signs of Jesus' soon return. But actually, eclipses like that happen several times every year. They just happen in places where we don't see them. So this was a big event. And the rapture didn't happen, nothing spectacular. The sun came back out full strength, and here we are a week plus later, and yeah, life has gone on. But last week, Ted, you as the president of the administrative body of the Seventh-day Adventist Church had a meeting there in Silver Spring, Maryland for a couple days where you had like an annual council, can't remember, spring council or something like that is what it was called. And you had reports from all over the world. Yes, I spent time watching what was reported there and what went on. I must say that I am totally disappointed in you and the presentations there. So in that case, I need to take another drink of my water before I start on that. At least I don't remember you saying any stupid things about LGBTQIA plus are not going to heaven. But you implied that in many other ways, but at least you didn't say those words. But you did call us slippage. Seems like slippage is a new general conference buzzword. It used to be backsliders or something like that. But now you're talking about slippage, both in the church where pastors are preaching other things and also free thought in our universities. Makes me very disappointed. You know, going back to my childhood, I grew up in a very conservative, fundamental Adventist home. Pretty much the 28 fundamental beliefs in what you espouse, Ted. Ellen White was part of our normal daily reading, along with, it was a German household, so we had Andacht, we had worship in the morning when we got up, and in the evening before we went to bed. We prayed before all the meals. When we traveled in the car, we prayed for travel mercies and protection, having our guardian angels looking after us. It was a pretty devout Adventist upbringing. We didn't have Christmas trees at Christmas because the Old Testament talks against bringing a tree in the house and putting any sort of decorations in it. So it's still, even though I have a Christmas tree these days, I cringe when I see them in churches and different people who claim to be super super good Adventist and they have a Christmas tree in their home or whatever. It's still, that little thing from childhood still bothers me. We were vegetarians. I didn't eat meat. We didn't drink anything caffeinated. I've never drank any tea. We didn't have coffee. We didn't drink cola drinks. I remember a few Adventists were drinking Dr. Pepper, but I think they also drank not only Postum, but maybe other coffee as well. I don't know. But anyway, they used to think that Dr. Pepper was a health drink until they realized that it had caffeine in it. And once they realized that, they only drank it as a pep me up occasionally. And those were good Adventists, but I never did. I remember when I was in elementary school, I missed the bus to go home, and the teachers there were worried about me, or the secretary, maybe it was, in the principal's office. I had to wait until someone I knew could come pick me up and take me the 15 miles or so home from school. And they were worried about me, and they offered me a drink, and I was really excited because I was parched, and I guess that's the right word. Anyway, I'm parched now. But yeah, so they brought me a Coke, a bottle of Coca-Cola, and they thought they were doing me a really big favor. And I was so thankful, but I had never drank Coke, and I knew that if I took a sip of Coke, I was going straight to hell. And that's the kind of fundamentalism that you are espousing to the church. But anyway, I knew that I was going to go to hell if I drank that Coke, but I was so thirsty, and water just wasn't cutting it, even though it is for me now. So I took a sip of that Coke, and I knew that my angels had left me and that I was unprotected from God, because that was the brand of Adventism that I had been taught and grew up. Now, I just still don't like Coke, but I can drink a Coke when I'm really thirsty and not particularly like the flavor, but I don't feel like I'm going to hell anymore. And I still don't like tea, iced tea. My husband drinks iced tea like crazy, and I make it for him, but I never drink any because I don't like the taste of it because of the way I grew up. But it's also, in the back of my mind as a kid, it was caffeinated. My mom was always when we went somewhere, it's like, no, we don't drink coffee, we don't drink tea, we don't drink Coca-Cola, we're Seventh-day Adventists. And so at the time we thought we were a great witness, but actually I believe we were turning people off to our brand of religion and belief. And as I listened to you talk about the slippage happening in our churches, I was reminded of that painfulness that harm that you're creating, because what you're doing is creating a theocracy where no one is free to think and study and believe on their own. They only have to read what you said, the statements that you put out, the human sexuality website that's out there that is way outdated and not even biblical. I just felt very bad for the people who still buy into following you as their leader. Sorry, Ted, but it's true. Following you as their leader of inspiration for spirituality. You're trying to put this huge, wonderful, beautiful God in this tiny little box, and he keeps popping out and exploding. And and our university should be a bastion of thinking and progressive thought all around loving God. I have no problem with that. I think I totally support that, but they should be able to think for themselves. And if they don't come up with the exact same belief in those 28 fundamental beliefs that you have mandated for all Adventists to believe, or else they're not Adventist or worthy to be members of the church, then our colleges, our universities are no longer worthy of being accredited as valid colleges. Yes, they can teach what we teach, and that is good. But they also need to give tools to our students and allow them to think, to study for themselves. And if they come up with a different belief, then that is okay. It's between them and God. You don't. I can be Seventh-day Adventist, and I am Seventh-day Adventist, but I don't believe all the 28 fundamental beliefs, and I'm okay with saying that out loud and in public. Um, yeah, I have a problem with a 6-day, 24-hour creation, uh, and I don't even believe that the Bible teaches that. Um, Obviously, I have a big problem with the way you interpret the LGBTQ text in the Bible. I believe you're totally wrong. You're entitled to your opinion, but as president, you need to, of the General Conference, you need to be a president for all Adventists, not just those who are conservative, fundamental, very narrow-minded, strict, homophobic, queerphobic, etc., etc. You need to also be my president and represent me and understand me. And if you don't understand me, sit down and talk with me. And that's what these videos are all about. I'm trying to reach out and get you to actually talk with SDA Kinship. We're Seventh-day Adventists. We're kinship. We're part of the family. But we don't read the scriptures in the same way you do. So why don't you sit down and talk with us and find out why we believe what we believe? We're the gay people in your church, the queer people, the trans people are the best actors in the world, because for years we know about ourselves before we tell our parents, before we tell anyone, and we learn to live with it and lead these double lives. So we've pretended to be straight for years, sometimes for decades, sometimes before we actually say, hey, I can't pretend anymore. I'm going to come out and let the world know that I am gay, because everything in the church, from baby dedications to honoring heterosexual marriages, et cetera, is a heterosexual church. And there is no representation for me as a queer person to role model in the church. The closest would be Ellen White and her secretary. Ellen and James did not have a very good marriage, and she was closer to her secretary than she was to James. So whether or not she was lesbian, I have no idea, or bisexual, whatever. At that point in time, sexual orientation wasn't even a thing. It was, you married, you had children, and you survived life. Life was hard. It was the 1800s. Even up into the 1900s. Life was hard. It was difficult. You did what you had to do to survive. And now we have the luxury of actually paying attention to who and what am I attracted to? What is my orientation? So, Ellen White never addressed it, never proclaimed that we were going to have this issue come up in church. So, again, Ted, take a sip of your drink, your water there on your desk. I'm going to assume you're watching this behind closed doors when no one is viewing you. And I invite you, Ted, let's talk. My door is always open. My video is always open for you to chat with me, and let's talk. But, the damage you did talking about slippage, and I can understand you're wanting to maintain status quo in an organization, but we're not falling for culture. We're not, trying to do the latest fad. Queer Adventists are there, always have been in the church. They were part of the early pioneers, but they just didn't have a term for it. Just like when I grew up, I knew I was different, but I didn't have a term for being gay. So, Ted, you're talking about compliance committees and stuff. Doesn't scare me as a person, but it makes me really scared and really afraid for our denomination, our Adventist church, as to where you're trying to lead it and where you're going with it. There's a lot of problems, there's a lot of issues going on in the world, and someone's sexuality, who they love, who they were born to love, is the least of these. Let's spread Jesus' love. Let's tell people that God loves them. and that there is a better way. Um, there's so much beauty in Adventism, in Christianity, in yeah. So let's not ostracize people. People are slipping out the back door all the time without you creating a slippage committee, compliance committee. So that's my thoughts for this week. Um, okay, anyway, I invite you to contact me and others who are listening to this. Please join SDA Kinship in our efforts to make the church a better, more loving, a safer, affirming place for all Adventists, for all Christians. You can check us out on the website, sdakinship.org. You can email me directly, info@sdakinship.org. You can follow us on social media at SDA Kinship, and you can go to YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube week of prayers and Friday worships and just lots of information and talks there. You can find us on YouTube at SDA Kinship INT. That's SDA Kinship for International. And I look forward to hearing from you. Please do either comment below if you can, or send me an email. And remember that you are loved. You are not alone. If you're a queer Adventist hearing this, gay, lesbian, trans, bi, poly, just not sure what's going on. Maybe you're not gay. Maybe you just need someone to talk with about your feelings. The church is not an open place to talk about feelings. You can contact SDA Kinship and let's talk about things. We're open, we're non-judgmental, and we're here to tell you that God loves you unconditionally, just as you are. And stop being alone. Just come in and join the community of affirming people. So thanks for listening. I look forward to next week and what we can talk about then. And yeah, have a great week. Have a blessed week. And see you then. Bye-bye.